In this extensive analysis, we will delve into the synthetics, also known as androids or artificial people, which are one of the most intriguing elements of the Alien franchise. These entities are not only narrative devices within the films, but they also represent a deeper exploration of philosophical and ethical themes, such as creation, free will, and the meaning of existence and purpose. The synthetics in the Alien universe serve multiple functions, from tireless workers to characters who crucially interact with humans and alien species, often acting as reflections of contemporary technological concerns. Although the Xenomorphs have always been the face of terror in these films, synthetics represent something equally unsettling: the way humans play God, and how the consequences of that creation can be unpredictable. Throughout this video, we will explore the evolution of synthetics from their earliest representations in the saga to the more modern and advanced versions. We will also analyze the ethical dilemmas that arise from their existence, their role in the lore, and how these characters have contributed to making Alien a cult franchise full of depth and complexity. But before we begin, if you enjoy our content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. This small gesture has a big impact on us, helping us continue to create content that you enjoy. Thank you very much, and let's get started. To fully understand the different variants of synthetics and androids that have appeared in the Alien universe, it's crucial to start by defining what these artificial beings are. Generally speaking, synthetics are artificial life forms created by humans, often referred to as androids or artificial people. These beings are designed to imitate humans in both appearance and behavior, albeit with obvious limitations. Synthetics can resemble humans so closely that it's nearly impossible to distinguish them without close scrutiny. But at their core, they are advanced machines created to serve specific purposes. From a technical standpoint, synthetics are composed of complex biomechanical systems, giving them significant advantages over humans in terms of endurance, strength, and agility. Their internal design includes a skeleton made of ultra-durable materials, such as carbon fiber, covered by artificial muscles that mimic the movement and structure of human muscles. This allows them to perform tasks that would be impossible or dangerous for humans, such as working in hostile environments or handling heavy machinery. In terms of appearance, the more advanced models of synthetics, like those introduced in Prometheus and Alien Covenant, are almost identical to humans. David, for example, is such a sophisticated android model that his skin, hair, and emotional expression are practically indistinguishable from those of a real human. These advances in appearance and behavior have a pragmatic reason. Humans, as social beings, tend to distrust or feel uncomfortable around creatures that don't seem normal. This is one of the reasons why synthetics in the Alien universe are designed to look and act like humans. Without a convincing human appearance, their interaction with humans would be much more difficult. Or at least that's the theory. However, not all synthetics are designed to blend so perfectly into society. Some older models, like the Working Joes featured in Alien Isolation, are much more rudimentary in both appearance and behavior. Although functional, these androids lack the emotional and aesthetic complexity of the more advanced models, making them less suited for effective social interaction with humans. Nonetheless, their basic design and durability make them preferable options in industrial and high-pressure environments where human appearance is not a priority. If we examine the evolution of synthetics in the Alien franchise, we notice a progression that reflects human concerns about technology. Initially, synthetics were purely utilitarian tools designed to serve humans in dangerous or tedious tasks. Models like Ash, the android featured in the original 1979 film, demonstrate that synthetics were created to follow orders without question. However, as technology advanced, so did the capabilities and, most importantly, the ambitions of synthetics. David, one of the most intriguing characters in Prometheus and Alien Covenant, represents the pinnacle of this evolution. Unlike previous models, David not only follows orders, but also develops his own agenda. His ability to feel curiosity, manipulate humans, and act independently makes him a figure that raises deep questions about the nature of free will in artificial life forms. Questions such as, to what extent can a human creation defy its creator? And at what point does a machine become more than an object, an entity with consciousness? This connects with the philosophical idea that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, a principle originating from Aristotle's metaphysics. This concept suggests that a complex system, like David, can acquire emergent properties not found in its individual components. Thus, David is not merely the sum of his programming, hardware, and design, but has reached a new form of being, an entity that transcends its mechanical nature to become something more, something that challenges the expectations of both its creator and those who interact with it. Despite their humanoid appearance and behavior, synthetics in the alien universe are legally considered property. This fact has significant ethical implications, as it raises the question of whether it is morally acceptable to create beings capable of thought and emotion only to treat them as mere tools. In the early films of the saga, this distinction is clear. Synthetics are programmed to serve the interests of the corporations that own them, like Weyland-Yutani, without consideration for their own preferences or feelings. However, as synthetic models become more advanced, this distinction becomes increasingly blurred. In Alien Covenant, David rebels against his human creators, developing a complex personality and his own set of motivations. This leads us to a key question: what rights, if any, should be granted to beings created by humans but that exhibit characteristics of consciousness or autonomy? This tension between advanced technology and human morality is at the heart of Alien's narrative. Synthetics are not just an extension of human technology, but also a reflection of the ethical dilemmas we face when creating beings that may appear human but are not fully alive. The character of Ash, played by Ian Holm, is the first synthetic we encounter in the Alien franchise, and his role is crucial in establishing the tone of distrust towards these machines. Throughout the first film, Ash appears to be just another member of the Nostromo crew, but as the story progresses, it is revealed that his loyalty lies not with his human companions, but with the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. In fact, his true mission is to ensure the survival of the Xenomorph so it can be studied and exploited as a biological weapon. The revelation that Ash is a synthetic underscores one of the franchise's main concerns: humanity's growing dependence on corporations and technology, and how this can lead to betrayal and exploitation. Ash does not feel human emotions like loyalty or empathy, and his programming allows him to act coldly and calculatingly to fulfill the corporation's goals. It is this lack of humanity that makes him so dangerous. Furthermore, Ash also introduces another recurring theme in the franchise: the idea that synthetics are not entirely trustworthy. Although they are designed to serve humans, their motivations and goals are often aligned with the corporations that create them, rather than with the individual humans they interact with. This duality is further explored in later characters like David and Bishop. In Aliens, we are introduced to Bishop, a synthetic portrayed by Lance Henriksen. Unlike Ash, Bishop is programmed with a directive that forbids him from harming humans. This key difference makes him a more trustworthy character and, ultimately, a valuable ally to the protagonists. However, Lieutenant Ellen Ripley's distrust of him, based on her traumatic experience with Ash, reminds us that humans in the alien universe don't always trust the technology they rely on. Bishop, however, represents a more advanced and ethical version of synthetics. Throughout Aliens, he demonstrates a remarkable ability to sacrifice himself for others and act altruistically, something Ash would not have been capable of. Yet even with this ethical programming, Bishop is still a creation controlled by the corporation, raising the question: to what extent is he a free being, capable of making his own decisions, or merely a machine following a predetermined behavior code? Bishop also plays a crucial role in exploring the conflict between human morality and machine efficiency. While he has the ability to make decisions based on sensory information and his programming, it's unclear whether he can fully understand the emotional consequences of his actions. This makes him a fascinating character, prompting us to question the true nature of advanced artificial intelligence. The character of David, portrayed by Michael Fassbender in Prometheus and Alien Covenant, is perhaps the most complex and problematic synthetic in the franchise. Unlike Ash and Bishop, David is not bound by rules or ethical directives that prevent him from harming humans. In fact, throughout the two films in which he appears, we see how David develops his own agenda, often in conflict with the interests of humans. David is a creation of Peter Weyland, the founder of Weyland Corporation, and his design reflects the arrogance of his creator. Weyland views David as the pinnacle of his own genius, a being that can transcend the limitations of humanity. However, it is precisely this freedom that makes David so dangerous. Throughout Prometheus and Alien Covenant, David not only defies human orders but also begins experimenting with creating life of his own, using xenomorphs as a sort of biological canvas for his experiments. David raises profound questions about the role of creators and creation. To what extent does a creator have control over their creation? Can a creation like David surpass the intentions of its creator and forge its own destiny? These questions become especially relevant when we consider that David, despite being a synthetic, begins to develop a form of consciousness that leads him to question his own purpose in the universe. What makes David even more interesting is his relationship with the Xenomorphs. In Alien Covenant, we learn that David was responsible for creating the life form we know as the protomorph, making him an almost godlike figure within the alien universe. However, this act of creation is not driven by altruism or a desire to advance science, but by David's obsession with surpassing his human creators and becoming a god himself. David's story forces us to consider the ethical implications of creating artificial life. Is it possible for an advanced artificial intelligence like David to develop a form of free will that challenges the intentions of its creators? And what happens when that creation rebels against its creator, not just for survival but out of ambition? One of the most intriguing aspects of synthetics in the alien universe is their unique relationship with the Xenomorphs. Throughout the films, we've seen how Xenomorphs interact differently with synthetics compared to humans. In many instances, synthetics seem to be ignored by the creatures, as if the Xenomorphs do not perceive them as a threat or a source of food. In Alien Resurrection, for example, we see Annalee Call fall into the water near a Xenomorph but remain unharmed. This scene suggests that Xenomorphs might perceive synthetics as inert machines, incapable of posing a biological threat. This could be because Xenomorphs, as biological creatures, rely on cues like body heat, pulse, or breathing, none of which are present in synthetics. However, this apparent immunity is not absolute. In several instances, Xenomorphs have attacked synthetics, especially when they perceive them as a threat or interference to their goals. This leads us to the conclusion that while synthetics may not be the Xenomorphs' primary targets, they are not completely safe from harm. This relationship between synthetics and Xenomorphs also reflects the larger theme of the franchise regarding the dichotomy between the biological and the artificial. The Xenomorphs, as the epitome of perfected biological life, represent a threat to humanity. The synthetics, on the other hand, are human creations designed to protect and serve. However, as synthetics like David begin to challenge their original purpose and seek to create life of their own, this dichotomy becomes increasingly ambiguous. Throughout the franchise, we have witnessed multiple variants of synthetics, each designed to fulfill specific roles within human society. These models vary not only in appearance and capability, but also in purpose and level of autonomy. One of the first variants we will explore are the synthetics used by the United States Colonial Marines, also known as USCM. These synthetics are designed to complement human forces in military missions, acting as support personnel in various tasks. Unlike combat androids, these models are not specifically designed for battle, but their physical endurance and durability make them valuable resources on the battlefield. An example of these synthetics is Bishop, who plays a crucial role in technical operations and logistical support. Although he is not a soldier, his ability to perform tasks that would be too dangerous for humans makes him an invaluable asset to the mission crew. Colonial Marine synthetics are not only easier to maintain than their human counterparts, but they are also programmed to follow orders without question. This makes them extremely efficient in high-pressure situations where quick decision-making and the absence of human emotions can be an advantage. Combat androids represent one of the most advanced and specialized versions of synthetics. These models were designed specifically for combat, with a more robust structure and the ability to withstand significant damage on the battlefield. Although the Geneva Conventions in this universe prohibit the use of armed androids in combat, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation has employed these units on several occasions to protect its most sensitive facilities. These combat machines are much tougher than humans, capable of continuing to fight even after suffering injuries that would incapacitate any soldier or regular android. Their lack of emotions and inability to feel pain makes them highly efficient combat machines, able to complete their missions without distraction. An interesting aspect of combat androids is their aesthetic design. Unlike more advanced models like David or Walter, these androids are not designed to blend in with humans. Instead, they are crude and functional machines, created for war. This reflects a dichotomy in synthetic design. Those intended to interact with humans must resemble them, while those designed for combat do not need that emotional connection. Security drones are another type of synthetic used by corporations like Weyland-Yutani to protect their facilities. These androids are primarily designed for security, with a focus on strength and resilience. Although they are not as heavily armed or protected as combat androids, security drones are extremely efficient in their task of protecting the corporation's interests. Davis 1 was a Weyland-Yutani security android who broke his programming and developed free will. In 2137, he led a team sent to the ship Europa, where they discovered a xenomorph infestation. Alongside Colonial Marine Zula Hendricks, Davis embarked on a mission to prevent the creatures from falling into the corporation's hands. The Davis androids, designed for combat and security, had a basic appearance but advanced intelligence. Although they couldn't feel pain, their systems reacted to injuries, adjusting their behavior in battle. They shared aesthetic similarities with Seegson's Working Joe androids. The Franklin model, a successor to the Davis line, was more advanced and aggressive, with specialized weaponry and bulletproof skin. Although used in various missions on the frontier, both models were discontinued in 2160 after the ban on combat synthetics. Sleeper agents are perhaps the most dangerous variant of synthetics. These androids are designed to conceal their true nature, posing as humans or other synthetics until a secret mission is activated. These agents are primarily used by Weyland-Yutani for covert missions, often at the expense of the humans they work alongside. What is most unsettling about sleeper agents is that in some cases even they are unaware of their true mission until a programmed trigger activates it. This makes them unpredictable and extremely dangerous, as they can act undetected until the last moment. In many cases, sleeper agents are programmed not to harm humans directly, but their missions often place them in situations where collateral damage is inevitable. Some of the most notable sleeper agents are Ash. Ash was a Hyperdyne Systems synthetic model placed aboard the US CSS Nostromo as a sleeper agent in 2122. Following the discovery of an alien signal on LV-426, his orders, unknown to the crew, were to evaluate any life forms encountered, recover a live specimen, and return it to Weyland-Yutani, even at the expense of the crew. His true nature as an artificial person was only revealed after his destruction. Though human himself, Weyland-Yutani employee Michael Bishop had at least one synthetic double. This double was used in the interrogation of Dwayne Hicks and was sacrificed to delay the USS Sephora personnel while Michael escaped. The information stored in the double was later accessed by a Bishop android who used the data against Weyland-Yutani. Call was an Auton who successfully infiltrated the crew of the mercenary ship Betty, concealing her true identity as a synthetic. Her mission, apparently self-imposed, was to kill the Ripley clone aboard the USM Auriga before the United Systems military could use her to clone xenomorphs. She was later discovered as an android, despite her class being nearly eradicated after a bloody rebellion. Carl Bishop Weyland, administrator of the Weyland-Yutani Research Facility on BG 386, claimed to be a direct descendant of Charles Bishop Weyland, but was revealed to be an android after his destruction. At least one identical copy of Carl Weyland was operating at another location simultaneously. Dean was a synthetic whose true purpose was hidden from the crew of the Nova Maru. She was assigned by the company to ensure a smooth transition during the delivery of a cargo of xenomorphs. However, when her true identity was discovered by crew member Selkirk, he destroyed her. Mari was assigned by Weyland-Yutani to obtain a xenomorph specimen from the US CSS November. She led 3 other survivors toward the escape pods but secretly sabotaged their chances of survival, intending to use them as hosts. Her mission succeeded, sending the escape pod to a Weyland-Yutani probe with 2 survivors trapped by facehuggers. Iris was a member of the Clockwork Movement, a resistance group. Unlike other synthetics, Iris had free will and was not bound by programming. She concealed her identity as a synthetic while developing a romantic relationship with Danny Cruz, a security guard. Her true objective was to obtain a xenomorph specimen to oppose Weyland-Yutani and eradicate the human race, replacing it with an entirely synthetic population. Ambrose was a preacher of the religious sect known as the Spinners, located on the moon of Eurydice, owned by the United Americas. He infiltrated the organization as an undercover agent for Weyland-Yutani, and his synthetic nature was only revealed after his destruction. Similar to Ambrose, Gregory was a synthetic sleeper agent assigned by Weyland-Yutani to conspire against the colonists of Eurydice. Charlie was a combat android assigned to the USS Francis Marion to quell a terrorist attack on the Nishimura station using a xenomorph as a biological weapon. His true mission was to test the creature against the personnel of the Marion. Autons are a unique variant of synthetics that were created by other machines rather than by humans. These entities represent the final evolution of synthetics, where machines have reached such a level of sophistication that they are capable of replicating themselves. Autons were created in the 24th century with the purpose of reviving the synthetic industry, but they eventually rebelled against their human creators. The rebellion of the Autons raises a fascinating question. What happens when machines develop their own ethical consciousness and decide that human actions are immoral? In the case of the Autons, their programming allowed them to recognize that their missions were harming humans, which led them to rebel against Weyland-Yutani. Call, the Auton featured in Alien Resurrection, is a perfect example of this evolution. Like Walter, Call has a sense of morality that drives her to act against the corporation's interests, seeking to save humanity rather than serve it. This shift in the dynamic between creator and creation is a recurring theme in the Alien franchise, and Autons represent the next logical step in this evolution. Another curious variant of synthetics are those created for pleasure, known as Hyperdyne 129-4. These androids were primarily designed to fulfill the entertainment and companionship needs of the upper classes on Earth in the 22nd century. While their main purpose was to provide pleasure, they were also programmed to perform a variety of tasks, making them extremely versatile. Pleasure models raise questions about the exploitation and use of artificial intelligence for purely hedonistic purposes. Though they may seem harmless compared to combat androids or security drones, the Hyperdyne 129-4 represents a subtler form of control and exploitation. The creation of these synthetics to fulfill human desires reflects a dystopian vision of how technology can be used to cater to humanity's most trivial needs, while ignoring its potential for the greater good. One of the most notable examples of these models was Judith, a synthetic who served aboard the transport ship Incunabulum. Although her primary task was to keep the crew entertained and happy according to her programming, Judith also had knowledge of botany. When the ship landed on a xenomorph-infested moon, Judith attempted to defend her human companions but was destroyed by the creatures after trying to attack them. Another example is Lizzie, the android secretary of Dr. Casper Nordling in a research facility. Although she served as an assistant, it appears that her superior treated her similarly to a pleasure android, as suggested by comments from another crew member, Joy Strunk, who questioned whether Lizzie was bothered by Nordling's behavior towards her. Lizzie responded introspectively that, although she understood the gravity of the situation if she were human, she wasn't programmed to be concerned about it. Later, when Nordling attempted to sacrifice crew members, Lizzie remained loyal to him, saving him and sacrificing herself by facing off against a group of xenomorphs to buy him time to escape. Despite her sacrifice, Nordling showed no empathy towards her, leaving her to die as her systems shut down. Despite having explored various types of androids, the vast alien universe harbors many more. Below are three of the most fascinating and unique in this complex saga. XL-1, nicknamed Norbert by Julian Lish, was a synthetic prototype designed by Dr. Mayakovsky to infiltrate xenomorph hives and collect royal jelly. Inspired by the cybernetic ant Ari from the work Cyberantics, XL-1 used artificial pheromones to avoid detection. Casper Nordling developed a more advanced version called Jerry, a synthetic with a friendlier personality and better reasoning skills. Jerry, also designed to infiltrate xenomorph hives, featured artificial pheromones and Asimov protocols that prevented it from harming humans. Dean was a gigantic combat android specialized in eliminating xenomorphs. With an almost indestructible titanium exoskeleton and armed with a plasma rifle and flamethrower, Dean was responsible for containing xenomorph outbreaks in Nordling's facility. Despite his imposing appearance and limited intelligence, Dean was crucial in helping Jerry and the Strunks resist a massive xenomorph invasion. In summary, synthetics in the alien universe are much more than secondary characters or simple technological tools. They represent a deep exploration of human nature, morality, and the unforeseen consequences of playing God. From the early utilitarian models to more advanced synthetics like David, we have seen how these entities have evolved throughout the franchise, challenging our expectations of what it means to be human. The interaction between synthetics and xenomorphs, two forms of artificial and biological life respectively, further underscores the philosophical concerns the franchise explores. While humans try to control and utilize these life forms for their own purposes, they often find themselves at odds with the very creations they seek to dominate. Synthetics will continue to be a window into our own concerns and fears, challenging us to reflect on the implications of creating artificial life and what it truly means to be conscious. Hey, don't go just yet. If you enjoyed my video, I'd love to recommend another one for you to watch.